You didn't think we were done, did you? Oh, no. Oh, no, we've got another one. Welcome to another Notsam Wrestling emergency podcast, because it's never too late to ring the siren just when you think you're safe and you're out of the woods. We got to hit you with another emergency podcast, and this one is all about CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre. And I already know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Sam, this happened days ago. How can even you, the king of shill, the king of the emergency podcast, possibly justify an emergency podcast now for something that happened on Monday Night Raw? And I will tell you, it's because I believe that the conversation has only grown and grown and grown since that segment happened. As a matter of fact, after a Raw that was jam-packed with so much that it needed an emergency podcast, I did a Raw talk and an emergency podcast, and there's still more to talk about. And the reason for that is that as the days have gone on, that Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, CM Punk segment in Chicago it's snowballed. It's just, I feel, garnering more and more and more conversation. And that's because of the line. Everybody talks about the line getting blurred. If you want a 101 on how to blur the line, because there's a couple of ways to blur the line, right? When we talk about blurring the line, we're talking about that idea that even the most hardcore wrestling fan that watches every hour, every single week, listens to Notsam Wrestling nonstop, is asking, yeah, I know that it's planned, but they really hate each other, right? And we hear about this, and this has been something that has been a part of wrestling forever. But we've all watched so long and have seen so many worked shoots and angles based on reality and the internet coming to life and all of this stuff that we all know that there is a type of wrestling that you watch when it's clearly pure storyline. And that's great. That's totally good. Like, you don't, not everything needs to be and shouldn't be this idea of, oh, I don't know if this is a storyline or not, because it's uncomfortable. There's an uncomfortableness to watching superstars interact when you're not sure if it's a storyline or not. And that uncomfortable factor is good in small doses. But if it's the whole show, it becomes very uncomfortable to watch. And you're like, I don't know if I can take this anymore. So just straight up storylines are great. Then there's this is a storyline that is clearly designed to replicate real life, right? That didn't used to be there. That originally, the clearly a storyline designed to replicate real life used to be blurring the line. But we've seen that so many times that we all recognize that now. And it's good. It's, again, these are not bad things. These are not wrong ways to tell a story. They're just different ways to tell a story now. And then there's going a step further, where you're fully blurring the line. And this is where it becomes dangerous. Because when you start blurring the line, everybody needs to be on the same page. In 1997, blurring the line it wasn't exactly blurring the line, it was probably crossing right over it, was Shawn Michaels doing the Sunny Days thing with Bret the Hitman Hart. Number one, that idea of storytelling shifted because that sort of blurring the line became mimicked. So people who grew up watching that and are now wrestlers will tell stories that look like that, but since we all saw that, you understand what I'm saying. But also, Bret and Shawn weren't on the same page there. Bret was like, no, don't, why would you say that? Why would you say it? So that's where it becomes risky, right? When you start blurring the line and you cross all the way over it, you get to a place where people go, I don't want to work with that guy. And we see that sometimes. And it ends up being real weird as a viewer because you don't really know when the line's been fully crossed. Because stuff happens that seems like the line is being crossed, but it's fully cooperative. All we know is we don't get a payoff because somebody's real mad. And it gets weird. So it's dangerous, right? However, I felt like this segment, and watching it back especially, was the perfect example of blurring the line. And I think that's why when I said on Monday night, late night, talking about The Rock and Cody Rhodes, which was an incredible segment. If you think I need to do another emergency podcast about CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins, let me know in the comments, and every YouTube comment. Maybe not every YouTube comment, but many YouTube comments, many podcast reviews are all going like, yeah, we do need another emergency podcast about that segment specifically. And as I said throughout the week, more and more conversations have been happening about that segment. When you look at WWE's YouTube channel, as of right now, as of this recording, The Rock and Cody Rhodes beatdown is at 1.6 million views, which is incredible. This segment's at 1.8 million views. And I don't think that that's how it started. That leads me to believe that more people are watching as the week goes on, because this is doesn't feel that much like, there were so many moments, I should say, that didn't feel like wrestling in it. When you look at the ratings, and I saw, and I mean, this is key. Did this work? Did this not work? Well, I would argue that interest in the match that it was advertising, I just had the ratings up for a second and it disappeared. But, I bet it's over here. Yeah, I got it. Interest in the match for WrestleMania, Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, is, I believe, greater now than it was before the segment. Which, to me, that's the way to rate it. Was it a good segment? Yeah, it was effective. But here, when you look at total viewers for Monday Night Raw, and they break it down by quarter hours, the show started with 1.72 million viewers. 3 hours later is at 1.67 million viewers, which is great. You know, they maintained an audience for the most part. But what's really interesting here is that segment, which was advertised, if you advertise, by the way, at the end of the show, The Rock is going to beat up Cody Rhodes, the end of the show would be through the roof. But we all thought The Rock had gone home. That was by design. But if you look at the CM Punk segment, the quarter hour before it was at 1.86 million viewers. That segment was 2.2 million viewers. That's like 400,000 people that clicked on to watch this segment. When you look at the 18 to 49s, what about the demo, Sam? Which, if anybody listens to this show and says, what about the demo? It's this isn't the show for that. If you look at the demo, 18 to 49, 782,000 watched the segment before. 933,000 watched that segment. So even in the demo, you're looking at a technically a percentage rate that is even higher, I think. Yeah, even higher, because you're talking about 200,000 people up. So it's a huge boost in ratings for that whole segment. And by the way, and then the drop-off after the segment was still back to, it wasn't like it cratered. It was back to 1.77 million viewers. So it was right there. It was just an extra, whatever it was, 400,000, 500,000 people jumped in to watch that segment, which tells you a lot. You don't see that often in this day and age in the world of professional wrestling. So what happened in the segment? Well, I feel like this was really the first time. You heard it when CM Punk returned at Survivor Series, and then he was on Raw the Monday after. And he said, "This is my home. I'm happy to be back." And people were like, it's cool to see him on Raw, but that's not the old CM Punk. That's not the old CM Punk. That wasn't dangerous. They called him corporate. Then he went on SmackDown. He cut a great promo, and he started running down everybody. He started running down Kevin Owens, running down Roman Reigns, talking about Cody Rhodes, everybody. And it was good. But Monday night in Chicago, first of all, in 2024, seeing CM Punk come out on Monday Night Raw in Chicago is incredible. But Monday night in Chicago, I believe, was the first time that we got the old CM Punk back, the dangerous CM Punk. There were multiple instances where he had that microphone, where as a fan, you were wondering, are they regretting giving him that microphone? Multiple instances. The same way when CM Punk would talk to John Cena. The same way when CM Punk would bring up Paul Bearer's death in his rivalry with The Undertaker. The same way CM Punk would do all this stuff, and you'd wonder, is there real beef? Is there real animosity? Is there heat between these two? You got it again with CM Punk on that microphone in Chicago. So CM Punk comes out, and he's got his right arm in that brace from his tricep injury. And he brings up, what do you want me to do? What should I do? I'm going to WrestleMania. I'll be there. What should I be doing? I want to be involved. What should I be doing? And he brings up refereeing. Maybe there's a championship match I could referee. That felt already like a dangerous thing. Unless you're going to do that, unless that's where you're going, I don't know if I would bring that up. But, okay, once he says that, we're along for the ride. He talks about Roman Reigns being on Pat McAfee's show. And he says, I'm not a daily listener to Pat McAfee's show. I apologize. I listen to the drive-thru and the experience. Jim Cornette's podcasts being referenced at the top of the 9 o'clock hour on Monday Night Raw. What world are we living in? He says, you know who hasn't talked about me? The Rock. I guess because he realized 10 years ago his arms were simply too short to box with God, which was the line that he used on the build-up to that Royal Rumble match that he had for the championship with The Rock leading into WrestleMania 29. Now, of course, The Rock was able to defeat CM Punk for the championship, but just the fact that Punk's bringing up The Rock, you wonder if that was something that they wanted him to do just to build interest, or if CM Punk was like, hey, there's probably a little money in another CM Punk Rock match. Whether that's the plan or not, let me put sprinkle some seeds on, because that's what the WWE is all about right now. Anyway, sprinkling seeds, right? We saw it later with Drew McIntyre and Paul Heyman. We'll talk about that. But where those seeds are coming from, are those seeds being planted by Phil Brooks, or are they being planted by the WWE creative team, or a little bit of both, or does it not even matter? Because all we're doing is planting seeds, and sometimes we get fruit from the plants, and sometimes we don't. But we plant enough seeds, and harvest is going to be good. And Drew interrupts him because CM Punk says that Drew's been tweeting a lot, and that in Chicago, when we have a problem, we go face to face, and they hit his music immediately, which is good for Drew. And Drew comes out, and Punk is immediately saying, Drew, I'm not cleared to wrestle, but I'm not here to wrestle. I want to fight. Get your ass in this ring. And Drew's, I'm not getting in that ring. I got a match at WrestleMania. I'm not getting in that ring. No. No, I'm not here to do that. When he's coming to the ring, and they're bickering back and forth, and it's not wrestling bickering. That's the key. It's like they're talking over each other. It's like CM Punk, you don't feel a sense of cooperation. Sometimes when you're watching even great wrestling that is building up to something, if you've been watching for years and years, you feel the give and take. You feel the ebbs and flows. You feel the cooperation, and it feels good. You can understand how this is almost an improv exercise. And you're like, yeah, I'm down with this. You didn't feel that at all when Punk and Drew were wrestling. Drew's sitting there. We're talking. Drew's sitting there going like, Punk, you complete me. And before he can finish his sentence, Punk is going, boo this man. Just boo him. Stinks. So Drew brings up the t-shirt, and says, look, it says CM Punk on the back of it. And again, before Drew is able to complete a thought, Punk goes, I never had to put another man's name on my t-shirt to sell it. Ooh, it was a good one. It was a zinger. And it also was a zinger that was probably, it felt like, not written in a script, not something that Drew McIntyre saw coming, and probably something that CM Punk had in the back of his head the minute that Drew started wearing his name on a t-shirt. And Punk said, I could tweet this or wait till I get on live television and just hit him with it. And what you're seeing here is Punk going, this is the level that I'm going to be playing at, so everybody needs to be playing at this level. And what I think we all need to understand is that Drew McIntyre has elevated himself to a level where he goes, oh, I'm very comfortable playing that game. Oh, that's the game we're going to play? Oh, I'm very comfortable with that. Drew McIntyre is at the point where he is so ready for any ounce of anything that he's given, that he's going to be able to go all the way with it. That it's like, okay, whatever you throw at me, I'm going to make this work. And so immediately, Drew McIntyre fires back, taking off the one Punk shirt and showing off the other. And he already knows, look, whether that was planned or not, I can't make another joke about Punk's name on this t-shirt because he just ruined it by saying it about the first shirt. So instead, he goes, sorry, I was a little slow taking off my t-shirt. It was hard to get it over my biceps. It's probably something you couldn't even relate to in your prime. And you're just like, whoa. And he's right. CM Punk never had biceps the size of Drew McIntyre. It is what it is. Drew McIntyre is a big old muscle boy. And that's something everybody's going to have to deal with being around him. And he gets up on the commentary table, and Punk is like, enough, get in this ring. And he lies down as if to challenge Drew McIntyre. And instead, Drew not only sits at the commentary table, but he sits cross-legged, CM Punk style, crisscross apple sauce, on top of the commentary table and says, I'm not getting in there with you. I know how people in Chicago are. You might have a weapon. Boo, boo. And Drew's hitting him back. I'm the chosen one. I was anointed that. And again, as if Punk was waiting for it, please say the chosen one. Please bring up that you were the chosen one. Because he interrupts him again. Can't even finish his sentence. Who called you that? Who said you were the chosen one? Whose chosen one are you? Name him. Say his name. Tell me what paragon of virtue named you the chosen one. And you're like, oh my God. That's what I was like. I know who did it. And Drew's smiling because he's like, okay, we're going all the way. That's where he went just now. Everybody realized it quick. Ooh, that's the name we're not talking about anymore. Uh-oh. So it's like, yeah, that's the moment where you were like, yep, that's what old CM Punk would do. That's what bitter CM Punk would do. That's what CM Punk, who's almost ready to walk out on the company, would do. What do I got left to lose? And you want to figure out how you can get that energy on television, because that energy is great for television, without having that energy ruin things in storytelling. And I think they were able to accomplish it, because just as they're getting past that hurdle, Seth Rollins' music plays. And he says, if you children are done trying to out-troll each other, because keep in mind, earlier in the day, Drew McIntyre, and you can't feel bad for Drew McIntyre. You can't sit there and go like, oh, CM Punk shouldn't have said that. Because the whole time, Drew McIntyre was at Molly's Bakery, where CM Punk got the muffins in Chicago before the show. He's referenced everything. Drew's taken every shot. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with a little bit of return fire. And I think Drew would be of the same opinion. Drew wants to take it there. Because if Drew's going to have a rivalry with CM Punk, it's got to be a big money rivalry. Drew McIntyre being able to survive in this world is what has made it so the rivalry between Punk and Drew is so compelling. Because let's not forget, it was Seth and Punk that had everybody going crazy. It was this potential Seth Rollins versus CM Punk match that had everybody, frothing at the mouth. And then Drew came along and he goes, no, I know how to play in this world too. And all of a sudden, we've got a line of opponents ready for old Philly Brooks. And Seth says, something you guys both got confused is that you can't make decisions on what happens. He goes, this is my show. And they're chanting CM Punk in the moment. You could tell it was in the moment. You could see it in his eyes. He goes, it could be your show, but this is my city. And Seth Rollins hits him right back. I know this is an away game, but you guys must have gotten confused because you can't make plans for the World Heavyweight title match. And then he gets right in Punk's face and he's spitting on him when you're not in the match. As if to say, I know you wanted it. I know you wanted to be in this match, and you're not in it. And then Seth Rollins takes a poll of the audience, who obviously the jury has been skewed somewhat by CM Punk's initial referee thought. Because, if you're like, well, we could have CM Punk in the ring directly affecting this match or on commentary talking to Pat McAfee or Michael Cole. He's a wrestler. I want him in the ring. So the fans start chanting, referee, referee. And Rollins in the moment goes, yeah, that's his counting hand right there. So And Punk in the moment starts counting 1, 2, 3 with his left arm to show that he can do it. And then the crowd starts cheering. And then Punk's in the position where he's like, oh boy, like now we've made it so that the fans clearly want me to be a referee. What am I going to do? And he says, but to be fair, I don't know if I could be an impartial referee with these two dipshits. He called them dipshits. And you're like, okay, all right, now we're starting to get back on track. We got a little profanity. McIntyre hits him with a keep it PG, brother. We're going kayfabe. It's good. It's all good. We're back. Punk says he's going to be on commentary. And he says, I'm going to do what a kilt and a sword and those bell bottoms and your wife couldn't do. I'm going to make you guys interesting. And he leaves, and you can see the look on Seth Rollins' face. His music hits. Rollins is pissed. And I would be too. And I'd be careful if we're going to be battling with words, especially if we're going to, veer a little off script, veer a little personal, just to get those juices flowing for the good purpose of a good segment. Because, I mean, Seth Rollins, CM Punk's wife is famous too. I don't bring up people's wives. I don't want them bringing up my wife. We're going to go there at some point, I'll bet. But as the music is playing, in a moment which is beautiful, this is why Drew McIntyre, because that's the thing with Punk, is that a lot of people can't play on his playground because he doesn't care, right? A lot of people aren't willing to go there. A lot of people don't have the balls to do it. It's a difficult thing to do. I wouldn't. But Drew McIntyre does. And in this moment that you can't tell watching, I mean, it feels like it was unscripted. But then the chain of events after feel like those events were scripted. So that's the beauty of it. That's the way it should be. We don't know. Drew goes, no. Punk's in the aisle. He goes, you don't get the last word. You don't get the last word. No, you're not even in the match. Punk, you're my biggest fan. You're a stan. Hit me back just to chill. Truly yours. This is Phil. And in that moment where Drew McIntyre, for weeks now, has been critical of Seth Rollins, paying more attention to the bloodline than the opponent that he's got right in front of him, which is Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is back to talking about Philly Phil, is back to talking about CM Punk, and in that moment, Seth Rollins sees it and kicks him in the face. Drew goes down and catches a stomp. The same thing that Drew has been accused of is what cost Drew that moment with Seth Rollins. And then again, in a moment that, is this what it was supposed to be? Is this what they decided to do? Seth Rollins gets out of the ring, and instead of going face-to-face with CM Punk, who was in the aisleway, walks right past him, doesn't even acknowledge him. And Punk, clearly disrespected, now smartly, instead of just watching Seth Rollins walk away, turns back and looks at Drew in the ring, and we end the segment. And it's like, what the hell did we just watch? I don't know, but it was interesting. It gets the people going. It was intriguing. All of a sudden, this match now feels like a main event again. This match, there were already stakes. The World Heavyweight title was on the line. But now it's even higher. You've got, are Drew and Seth going to be able to focus on each other while Punk's at ringside? Is Punk going to do more than just do commentary? Who does Punk like less, Seth or Drew? What is Punk going to say on commentary? Are people still going to get over in this match? Who knows? Who knows? Punk is going to be out there with a live microphone. And it's going to be against two guys that maybe he doesn't like, maybe he likes. But two guys that it has been shown on television CM Punk has a problem with. And they have a problem with CM Punk. So the character, CM Punk, is within his rights to just trash both of them. Because that's what CM Punk would do. And that's what we get at WrestleMania 40. I think that segment alone elevated that match immensely, to the point where you almost wondered if McIntyre and Rollins were going to go on first on night 2. Night 1's main event is Roman and Rollins versus Rock and Roman, I would imagine. You almost wondered if the main event of night 2 is going to be Roman and Cody, and the main event and the first match of night 2, because that's, is going to be Rollins versus Punk, the way they did Rollins and Brock as the first match of WrestleMania 35. But after that, we're going to be waiting all night. We're going to be anticipating that moment. I now need to see that second to last. I need to see Rollins and Drew with Punk at ringside. It would be the main event if it weren't for Roman and Cody. But I need to see that as the semi-main. I need to see that going on second to last now. And I don't know. We'll go over on another podcast what comes first. But then, a couple of segments later, you got Miz and R-Truth and DIY, and they're trying to work themselves out. And in the back around, Paul Heyman is talking to Drew McIntyre. Now, of course, Drew McIntyre would be involved in the altercation that happened with Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa and Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. But ultimately, Drew McIntyre didn't attack anybody to help the bloodline. Drew McIntyre attacked Seth Rollins. So is Paul Heyman meeting with Drew McIntyre just because they have a similar interest in taking out Seth Rollins before WrestleMania because of the tag match with the bloodline? Is Paul Heyman aware that the bloodline is at a higher risk than they've ever been before? So maybe if the bloodline disintegrates after WrestleMania, Paul Heyman's going to need somebody to go with? Is Drew McIntyre looking to drift more towards being a villain, and being straight up about it and aligning himself with Paul Heyman? All of the above, potentially. We're planting seeds. We're Johnny Appleseed over here. Everywhere we go, let's put a little over here. Let's put a little over there. And guess what? At some point, wherever they grow, we're going to get some apples. And that's what we got. Apples. It was great. I loved it. I can't wait to see what happens on SmackDown. And then on Raw, not only do you have Roman Reigns and The Rock advertised. Cody Rhodes, a Raw superstar, obviously he'll be there. But CM Punk is in New York City doing media on Monday. You mean to tell me that guy's not driving over to Brooklyn? You mean to tell me that guy's not going over to the Barclays Center as well? Potentially, Monday Night Raw, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Rock, Roman Reigns, Punk. I think we got a few more emergency podcasts in the tank before WrestleMania. We'll see you for our weekly podcast on Monday. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave a rating review on the podcast apps. And this Wednesday before WrestleMania, April 3rd, the Helium Comedy Club in Philadelphia, live Notsam Wrestling. It is going to be incredible. Be there. Get your tickets at notsam.com. I'll see you soon.